Hello there! In the previous episode, we added sound effects and background music to our game. In this episode, we will improve the UI with better graphics. Let's start by locating the UI_GFX sprite. Slice it with automatic type. When it's done, open the main menu scene. Let's first change the title. Right-click on Hierarchy and select UI Image. Rename it as Title and change the source image to Mushroom Game Sprite. Next, we need to adjust its size. At the bottom, there is a preview window which displays the dimensions of the sprite. Change the width and height according to these dimensions. Then anchor the image to top middle and change the position on Y to -100. Now you can remove the old title text. Next, we will deal with the buttons. Select the Start button and change its source image to Start Game Sprite. We need to change the size as well. It's 322 by 119. Finally, we need to remove the text element, which is its child. Then it's turn for the Exit button. Do the same process to it as well. When you're done, take a look at the button component. There we have a list of different colors. We could change the highlighted and pressed colors. Highlighted is active when the cursor is hovering over it. Change the highlighted color to lighter red and pressed color to darker red. Now, if we enter play mode, we see that the button is more interesting when highlighted or pressed. Do the same for Start button too. You are free to try any color you want, so be creative. Next, we could add some background graphics for the main menu. You are free to use anything you find from the sprites folder or internet. You can pause the video at this point and continue when you're done. Okay, main menu is now dealt with. Open the level 3 scene. We will replace the Game Over and Level Finish text with buttons. If you have newer version of Unity, open the UI prefab. If you have an older one, you can just edit the prefab in Hierarchy. Create a new UI image and drag it at the top of the prefab structure. Rename it as Game Over Image. If the position is not at 0, reset it. Change the source image to Game Over Sprite and adjust the size accordingly. Then change the position on Y to 200. Next, we will create the buttons. Right-click Game Over Image and select UI button. Make sure that the button is a child of the image. Rename the button as Restart Button. Change the source image to Restart Sprite and adjust the size according to its dimensions. Then change the position on Y to -200 and remove the child object. And lastly, change the colors according to your wishes. Before proceeding, we could delete the old UI texts because they are in the way. Remove the Game Over text and Finish text. Much better. Then, duplicate the Restart button and rename it as Main Menu Button. Change its position on Y to -325. Add the source image to Main Menu Sprite. And lastly, the colors. Okay, Game Over menu is now done. Next, we will create the Level Finished menu. Duplicate the Game Over image and rename it as Level Finished Image. Drag it below the Game Over image. At this point, we need to disable the Game Over menu so that we can edit the Finish menu better. Select the Level Finished image and change the sprite to Level Finished. Adjust its size according to the dimensions of the sprite. Next, we need to change the Restart button into Next Level button. The Main Menu button can stay as it is. Select the Restart button and rename it as Next Level button. Then change the source image to Next Level Sprite and adjust the size if needed. Okay, both menus are done. Enable the Game Over menu again. Before we change the power-up slider or score texts, we need to change the code in UI Controller a bit. We will no longer change the scene with keyboard buttons, but rather clicking on the UI buttons. So, open the UI Controller script. We need to change the Game Over and Finish variables into images and change the related code a bit. Replace the text Game Over text with image, Game Over menu and the text Finish text with image, Finish menu. Then in Start function, instead of disabling the text, we need to disable the whole game object. Because the buttons are children of the image, they will also get out of sight when the image game object is disabled. Remove the lines for Game Over text and Finish text and write Game Over menu .game object .setActive false. And under it, Finish menu .game object .setActive false. Next, in Update function, we need to replace the same text again. Remove the lines for the text and write the same code as in Start, but remember to replace false with true. Last thing to do is to change these scene-changing if statements into functions and assign them to the UI buttons. Let's start with restart statement. We only need to replace the if statement line with public void restart game. We can keep the curly brackets and the block of code inside of them in place. Then replace main menu's if statement with public void main menu. And finally, next level's statement with public void next level. One thing that causes error is that we declare these public functions inside of the update function. What we can do is to move the code outside of update. Paint all of the three functions and cut and paste them outside of the update function. Remember to paste them inside of the UI controller class curly brackets. Make sure that the update function still has its curly brackets. If you don't know how to cut, it is done by pressing Ctrl and X at the same time. Okay then, save the script and return to Unity. First, drag the images to the correct variable slots. Next, we will connect the functions with the right buttons. Let's start with the Restart button. Press from the small plus icon and drag the UI game object into the empty field as it has a UI controller script attached to it. Then click on No Function menu and choose UI Controller, Restart Game. Okay, this button is now done. Next, we will deal with main menu buttons. Remember that we have two of them. Click on the plus and drag UI to the slot. Then open the No Function menu and select UI Controller, Main Menu. Do the same for the other main menu button. When you're done, move to Next Level button. Repeat the same steps, but select the Next Level function from UI Controller. After that, apply the changes to the prefab and enter play mode. The buttons don't work. It is because we forgot to add the Event System game object to this scene. Right-click on Hierarchy and select UI Event System. Do this to all of the scenes that don't have it. When you're done, enter play mode. Test all of the buttons. Awesome, they are working well. However, we could give the Game Over menu a little delay because now it hides the dying animation behind itself completely. Let's get back to the UI controller script. What we can do is to create a function that sets the menu active and call it with invoke. Under the update function, write void game over menu and cut and paste the line of code that sets the menu active there. Then, inside of the if statement, write invoke game over menu 2f. To be uniform, we could do the same for the finish menu. Under the game over function, write void finish menu and cut and paste the line of code that sets the menu active there. Then, in the if statement, write invoke finish menu to F. Let's save the script and test. Nice, it works. Great, now we have updated most of the UI. In the next episode, we will continue and update the rest of it. Remember to save the scene. See ya!